So, Dora, how excited are you? I'm pumped up, especially because I know that Mike and JB, they do a lot of incredible work on the planet, right? And they're actively involved in making a difference in people's lives. And that's what this tour is all about. So, Dora, how excited are you?
I'm really excited, Mo. And I have to say, Rex and Natalie, wow, I love listening to you all as moderators. You really get into the conversation and really elicit some great, great feedback. I loved hearing from Fire Up Nation and their authenticity and how they're dealing with stuff and the heart-centered, conversation that was happening with everyone in that room. And you guys, you held the space and brought that forward. So I'm looking forward to another round. I'm back here listening and eating almonds and stretching, but I'm with you. I am with you.
Awesome. So let's bring them in. And I'm going to step back, but welcome, Mike. Welcome, JB. I'm going to kick it off with you, JB. Take the floor, share what you're proudest of. And I don't even know where you're going to begin because you do so many things. I mean, JB Owen is an active and busy individual just like Mike, but we're going to give you the floor first, JB, to go ahead and get the ball rolling, and welcome to the tour. JB Owen, the floor is yours. And you are muted, by the way, so we might want to unmute first, and then we'll go ahead and give it to you in 5, 4, 3, 2. The floor is yours.
So happy to be here. Mo, adore Rex, Natalie, wonderful watching all of you. And Dennis, I know you're in the green room, so great to connect with you. Mo, we're going to be fighting for the word excited because excited is also one of my words. I love to use it all the time. But of course, ignite, as you can see, is really what I'm all about. I love to ignite possibilities and inspire people, really show them where they can go to in their lives and let them know that their story, their personal story, which some of you were talking about earlier, their story is what transforms them and what makes them really step into what's possible and then go towards that legacy that they want to build and make an impact on humanity. So super excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah. Well, now he's on mute.
Listen, it's 2021. It's part of life.
It's
Mike,
true.
Let's give you the floor, my dear friend. The floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, he's
also muted.
By the way, I appreciate you, Mike. I know you did that on purpose, just so I could feel a little better. So thank you for helping me out and throwing me a bone. The floor is yours, Mike McGinnis.
All right. Thank you. What I'm all about is creating the essential revolution that is much needed right now on our planet. And when I think about the idea of winning, I would say my most winning moment was when I discovered that what I thought was winning wasn't winning. And it was sort of that old paradigm of winning where one gets more and has more and achieves a certain thing. And that I did all that, and I don't fault anybody for wanting that. I think that's part of life. And in my case, and I think all of us came here for something much bigger. And that is actually to get back home, capital O-H-O-M-E, heaven on Mother Earth. And so in that transitional moment where I discovered that the win was something much bigger than having the stuff of life, whether it be not just, financial, but like, whatever goal one sets. And like I said, it's beautiful to have the goals. But for me, once I had achieved these things, I felt empty inside, and I realized there was something bigger to winning, and and that has to do with awakening. And so I'm all about helping people wake up, if that's I can say that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mike. You reminded me of that Ram Dass quote, "We're all just walking each other home." So I'm so excited to sit back and listen to JB and Mike. And I like this duo. JB's got the excitement. Mike is more stoic. He's more like Marcus Aurelius. And so this is going to be a fascinating yin yang. I'm going to sit back and take notes. Dr. Natalie Forrest, the floor.
Wait, I'm going to leave, but I have to say I couldn't type it fast enough to find home. Heaven on Mother Earth.
Yeah.
Wow. What if we did that? What if heaven was right here on Mother Earth now?
It is.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to leave it to the pros.
Well, home is where the heart is, right? I'll just throw that in. All right. So I'm ready to hear, what is winning to you? I know both of you have been in and out all day, so you probably knew that this question was coming, which is an unfair advantage. But please, what is winning to you? I'm going to start with Mike.
Yeah, like I said before, winning was me discovering that the other winning wasn't. That was my first step. And what I would say now is that what's shown up for me is that the most important thing in life go through theirs some way somehow, and I do that by writing novels and speaking, and so that has been the big win for me, and I believe that it you know, a lot of people maybe don't know that that's what winning truly is, and it might not appear that way for them at the moment, and that's okay, because everyone's in a process and it's subjective. But I do believe, like I said before, and Nikita said it, you know, where the heart is, I would say home is where the heart-centered heart is, you know, and you know, and we're all on our way home. And so, yeah, for me, winning is like, the big win is when the planet just goes boom, and a lot of us awaken and we switch this sinking ship into another direction and fix the situation we're in right now. So that's what I look at.
JB. Oh, no. Mute. But can I just throw in, thank you for muting yourselves in between. Just in case the audience doesn't realize, sometimes there can be feedback. That's why we keep muting ourselves. And so, you know, sometimes we just want to jump in and say something, and it's like, oh, that thing again. Thank you, baby.
Well, actually, the host muted me, so I was just being respectful that it was unmuting me or muting me. So I'll do whatever works for you guys. I'll unmute myself. But winning is a big word. I think a lot of people find winning to be somewhat, you know, am I winning? It's like this analysis of, are they winning or not? And so I like to step into the idea of, is a win something that you've made possible for yourself? And when you really understand you and who you are and where you're at in your life, that's the win. To know what you're good at and what you're passionate about and what you love to do and what really lights you up. When you discover that and uncover that, I think that really is when you're winning, because you're living on purpose. You're really focusing on where it is you want to be. And I like to share a little story. Last year, just turning 50, I decided to get up off the couch after gaining 16 pounds with the pandemic, and everyone said it wasn't possible. But I took my tandem bike off the wall of my garage that was collecting cobwebs and decided to cycle 5,000 kilometers across Canada with my husband. Now, never been an athlete, never cycled before. I was overweight, was turning 50, all those reasons that people said it wasn't possible. But I really, really decided that I was going to do that and show people that it was possible. Now, I did make it there, but about 200 kilometers before our finish line, I actually stopped the bike with my husband. And I said, you know, I could go home at this moment. We've been cycling for 56 days. Trying to get 5,000 kilometers to this finish line, this winning, you know, endpoint that everyone is talking about, that we were raising money for and doing all these things for. But about 200 kilometers before the finish line, I was ready to stop. I was ready to go home. I was saturated. I was filled. I was full of life. I was blessed. I was grateful. I was thankful. All of the incredible feelings around winning were inside my body. And so getting to that finish line, that number we put on our bank account, or that number on the scale, or that sort of thing, that winning piece didn't seem as important as the feelings and the emotions and the impact that I had reached. And I literally could have packed up the bike and gone home. Of course I didn't. But I was really at that place where I felt like I had won inside of me. I had challenged and conquered and overcome and proved it to myself. And I think that is really where winning is, where we make a difference, because we want to win compared to someone else, or we want to use what someone else has done and to marker what we can accomplish. And I think the true essence of winning is when you look at yourself and you see what you can do and how you can gain and grow and inspire others from that.
Wow. That is beautiful. I would like to throw a wrench into all of this and completely change the topic. We've been defining winning and asking what you think about winning, but the other part of this tour is the word psychology. And, you know, there is psychology and psychiatry, and we've been both benefited from it and hampered by it for so long. And so much of it is, we're broken. You've got all these problems. Sit down, let's talk about it. And but here we're talking transformation. We're talking about winning. We're talking about changing oneself and doing things. So the new psychology is what I'm interested in. So how would you define that today in terms of what's important for people to embrace in order to feel fulfilled and win?
Well,
Okay.
thank you. I would say, it's true. The new psychology of today has so many scientific connotations to it. But let me just break it down for some people who are just like, I'm just dipping my toe into this. Help me get started. So in so many ways, us shifting our mind into what is possible. And I think the pandemic was a big awakening for all of us because we were waiting to see what can we do? What are we allowed? What are we able to do? And what I wanted to do was really remind people that we have to shift our mind to what is possible. What can we achieve? What can we step into? What can we awaken? And when we open up our minds to what's possible, that's the psychology of it, because for so long we've been conditioned and programmed to believe something. And when I publish stories for so many of my authors, 700 authors we have put through our program and published their stories, they've been given a story from a childhood or from a teacher or from a parent, and that story has carried with them through their lives, and they're conditioned in their program, and that winning mentality has been dampened by what somebody else did potentially. The psychology of that is to crack open that, to redefine the meaning that they put on that, and allow that new idea of what's possible to perpetuate the planting the seed of what's next for them. And so that's really, to make it really easy for people and simple, it's really knowing that inside of you, inside of your mindset, is this fertile garden of all the things that are possible for you, and moving through the story or the label or anything you put on yourself before.
Oh, fantastic. And Mike, same question?
What she said. That's true. I work a lot with the deprogramming of the conversation inside of the head, the things that we tell ourselves, the thing that just talks all the time. And that's been programmed through years of caca. And a lot of it, and where I usually start with people, or I should say where Dimitri usually starts, the character in my book, the guy that kind of saves the world, he starts at the victimhood mentality. And that's, for me, that is number one, the first thing that needs to be dismantled. Because if we're stuck with that, we're walking around with that 60-pound sack of crap in the back, there's no way we can soar, SOAR, spiritually, or in any way, if we're held down by that. So that's the beginning. And from there, it just keeps going and going. So the psychology for me is to change the chatterbox and what it's saying. I'm not one of these people that says, hey, you got to shut it off. And I don't know if you can shut off a conversation. That we talk to ourselves. That's what we do. So I like to look at, what am I saying to myself? Or what is that voice saying? Because that's sometimes it's not even really me. It's not us, right? So how do we get in there and shift what it's saying to us, changing the perception, which is what JB was also getting to, I think.
Yeah, Mo said we were the yin and the yang, and look, we're so aligned.
Yeah.
Very cool, very cool. Dr. Natalie?
Well, I want to follow up on this because knowing a little bit about life stories, and you saw, in the previous panel, I went into a little more personal questions because that often helps, and not in the way that nowadays a lot of speakers just start out by saying, this is my story, this is why you need to believe me. But Mike, thinking about your story, for example, if I might put you on the spot, there are a lot of ups and downs, as people may say. And very often then society will say, well, this is a big win. You survived this, you survived that. Whether it's the dropping out of school, whether it's, whatever it is. So society tells us one thing about, oh, this is a win. What in your life, and looking at your bio, there's a lot, has been the biggest personal win for you?
I would say that it started, it was a process for me, and the biggest one was to actually realize that I am not that story. I am not. I mean, the story's there, and before the story was a negative, like, oh, this happened to me, and for me, like, if we want to be like content and happy, move forward, have everything we want, we need to change that wording, and it is, look at what happened for me. And when I was able to do that with the big thing that happened when I was young, and when I was able to shift that at about 23, the world opened up for me. And so that was a big win. And then I've had a whole bunch of other through different circumstances, the things that have happened. And so, you know, but for, again, that's the big one for me, is to get beyond the victimhood, the thing that this happened to me, and shift it to, and everything is happening for us, the good, the bad, and the fugly. That's what I always say. I mean, I really do believe that. I don't believe it, I know it, that everything is happening for us. But if we say that it's not, then it's not. It is literally our choice. And so I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, absolutely. And I want to jump back in there just for a second before I turn it over to JB, because if I'm not mistaken, and I may be, you also helped create a community, and in that community, while you are living, talking about the essential revolution, while you're thinking and talking about self-study and bringing all of those internal things out so that you can know yourself. Is it right that you're also a sheriff? If so, then the next question is, you know, the law is one thing, and hopefully it's law with a heart. How do you connect those?
No, I think maybe what you saw was that there was a time in my life, I lived in Central America in a very small town,
Yes.
where I had to step up and become the sheriff of this town, and an old version of Mike, and it wasn't a very pleasant thing, and I had to do it, and I did it for 17 years. I had a massive awakening experience, which made me realize that those people that I was going after are my brothers and my sisters, and not to say that I should allow them to do it, but I didn't need to carry the hate that I was carrying around with them. And so I was able to release that. So that was a story of the sheriff, non-official sheriff, non-official mayor of this small town area. Yeah. So in the community, as I live in a community called a spiritual community up here in the zone here, in the southern zone of the country I live in, and yeah, we all work together, and you know, we bring things up when it needs to be brought up, and we do the inner work and the outer work, and they go hand in hand, you know.
See, and I thought you were actually the spiritual sheriff. I mean, that's where I was going with this.
That's
you're telling me I'm all wrong. I lose. Oh man.
I'm thinking that.
Thank you for clearing that up. And you know, it is the learning processes that we go through. So, JB, similar question to you. Obviously, your biggest personal win, and you may already have hinted at it, unless you have another one, when it comes to, you know, that bike tour that you decided to go on. But the biggest personal win, what would that be for you?
Well, actually, I have two-part answer to this question. So when you asked Mike, I watched his face and he automatically looked up, which is your eyes reticulating your memory bank into what was that thing. And so he went into his memory to think about what was his biggest win. And I think it's interesting because as human beings, we like to categorize things in our mind of where it fits into, was it a win or was it not? And I'd like to just, you know, introduce the idea of micro wins. Like we have micro wins every single day. And if we can reward ourselves for the little wins, and because they're actually big wins, we got up, we showed up, we're all here, we're inspiring others, we're making a difference, we wrote books, we stood on stages, you know, we took our kids to soccer successfully. These are all these incredible wins that we have that we don't really give ourselves enough credit for because we're always looking for the big win. But I will share with you a big win. So last year I cycled 5,000 kilometers across Canada. This year I decided to go to the top of the world. And so my husband and I cycled 6,500 kilometers to the top of the world in Alaska. Now on the way there, going up the Rocky Mountains, 40-kilometer incline nonstop, pouring rain. It was like so treacherous. There was like this road that was like rails. It was with cliffs and the semis were going by, you know, splashing rain on our faces like needles. I was hanging onto the back of the bike and our follow vehicle had gone forward and had turned around because the fog was so bad. You could barely see about 10 feet in front of us. Pouring rain. Rain is like dripping off my nose, dripping off my helmet, running down. And I'm hanging onto my handlebars like, I'm not going to stop. And the follow vehicle pulled over on the other side of the road and said, like, get in, come on, it's terrible out. And I said to my husband, I'm not stopping. And as the follow vehicle left, because there was so much traffic on this single lane highway going up this mountain, he said, why are you doing this? Like, what are you trying to prove? Who are you trying to impress? And I said, I'm not trying to impress anyone. I'm trying to impress myself. I just can't stop. I can't quit. I can't not do it. And it was in that moment, I have to share with you, tears welled up in my eyes, and I was hanging onto the handlebar so tight because I realized I had to win. I had to succeed. And what I found out was that the universe spoke to me in that moment and said, you've won all along. You've been winning since the day you were born. The moment you stepped into this universe, you were winning. You have won. You don't need to prove anything to anyone, especially to yourself. And as I climbed up that mountain with every pedal I took, I thought back to all the things I have done, my children, my schooling, the homes that I built, the people that I've impacted, the eyes that light up that I help. And I realized I am enough. I am enough right the way I am right here in this exact moment, born enough, brought into this world enough. And so that was a big win for me. And I'll tell you the end of the story when we got to the top of the mountain and the fog lifted and the big sign showed up of the next town. It was called Marathon. And I was like, okay, I've done my marathon. I've made it to Marathon. And now I truly can understand that I am enough. And I was born enough, and that was a big win for me.
I want to follow up on that, JB. You biked to the top. You did your 6,500.
We did.
And the year before, when you did your 5,000, did you complete? You said 250 miles.
We did it. Yeah, we did the 5,000.
So this is something that I want to bring up because sometimes people would say, I'm fulfilled. I don't have to go any further. And they stop, and they're great in that moment. And then a week, 2 weeks later, a year later, they go, I should have gone the distance. I was 250 miles shy of it. I could have kept going. And now they have a regret. What I love about your story is the fact that all along the way, you're winning. I'm saying, and if you decide I'm going to cross the finish line, that's one thing. But if you're set out to win all along the way, it really doesn't matter how far you go. But that said, you mentioned micro wins. And the notion that if you say I'm going to do something and you don't do it, then some people would call that losing. If you say I'm going to do 3,500 as opposed to 6,500, and you do 4,000, you've exceeded. So what would you say to people? Because what you shared is both so beautiful, and what Micah shared is both so beautiful in terms of going the distance, doing what you say, and winning all along the way.
Yeah, well, it's great. Like, I don't call it losing, I call it the pivot because, we got out, we left our house and we had a map that said, here's 6,500 kilometers and here's the top of the world and here's where you want to go. And here's the most logical plan that Google says you should take according to Siri and GPS. But from the day one, the rain, the traffic, the construction, the I didn't feel good, the stomach ache, the whatever, always caused us to shift, reposition, make a new plan, make something different, get up later, get up earlier, leave sooner, have to wait. And so we never saw that as a loss. It wasn't a loss. And I think it was really indicative to life because we think we don't make so much money, it's a loss, or we don't get on a certain event is a loss, or we didn't achieve something that's a loss. If I actually put that towards biking and said, well, I didn't make it to this city today, or I didn't cycle 150 kilometers today, it's a loss. The truth is, I will tell you each and every moment along the way where something had to shift, where we had to go to a totally different city, or we had to take a different route. In fact, the fires were very huge in Canada this year. We had to completely reroute. We had so many things on play. There's a bear on the road, everyone. We have to make a new decision. And so those reroutes actually became the most beautiful, most powerful, most incredible experience of rerouting because the universe was guiding us versus our intellectual mind saying, I have to do this and I have to get there. And so I believe that there's no such thing as losing. Those pivots, those redirects, those are the ones that are full of the yummy juiciness because the universe is allowing it to unfold before you. And we all know spirit and higher consciousness has a much bigger plan for us than we have for ourselves. And so surrendering to that, we talked about it in the last segment, surrender is really the key. It's not about losing or winning. It's about understanding what is in front of you and using that to the best of your ability. And so many of your viewers are listening that they are thinking, like, how can I do this? Use what's in front of you. Take those moments in front of you and pivot to make those the best route possible.
I would add, and then I'm going to pass it back to Dr. Natalie or to Mike. I would add that all of those things you had to pivot from and pivot to made your story more interesting.
Absolutely. And made me trust, absolutely trust that this is what God wants. This is the right and perfect path. This is what we should do. This is the way to go. This is going to lead us to where it is we need to be. Thank you.
Of course, that is sort of the idea, right? It's the journey. It's not the destination. So this is a question that I often get asked, and I see a lot of people ponder about. And it just popped into my head. It wasn't prepared or anything. When JB, when you were talking about the marathons, in a sense, I see a lot of people in society pronounce what they are going to do. Say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make $1 million. I'm going to run a marathon. I'm going to do this. And they tell it the whole world, which to me is a whole lot of pressure. Okay. So Mike, do you think when we really know what we want, or when we're thinking that, we have a goal in mind, do you think it's best to pronounce it to the world? Or do you think it might be good to make your deal with the universe, God, Allah, Buddha, whoever you believe in, or whatever you believe in, and just go for it?
Well, I say that's kind of a subjective thing for each person. And I would also say that there's something to speaking something into reality. Let's just say that everything already exists in some quantum slice somewhere out there. It gets a little exoteric, but I know that that's true. And so if I start to speak things into reality, or if I start living from that place of the already accomplished, then these things can start to, the universe sort of sets it up like a, this isn't unexplainable we're talking about here, so it's kind of hard to explain it. But yeah, I mean, for some people, like saying, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to wake up the world. And guess what? If you do say something really big like that, you just make sure whatever you say, it's massive, because no matter what you do, even if you get 3/4 of the way there, you've done something amazing. That's what I say to people. So I don't have anything against that. And at the same time, if somebody wants to keep it to themselves, I think that's beautiful too.
Oh, I like that. I want to add something here. I want to ask Mike. I actually want to comment and then ask everyone. You said, well, that gets a little esoteric. But, if we had all been trained that esoteric things were normal, like we've been trained that reality that we experience is normal, we wouldn't be saying it, well, that's a little esoteric, or that's a little woo-woo, or out there, or whatever. It would be your reality. So what do you say? This is where the new psychology comes in. What do we say to people? Why do we apologize for things that may actually be as real as anything else? Why are, and I get it. I mean, we're keeping rapport with our listeners or our viewers or the family members or whatever, by saying, well, but given what you know and what you experience, it's really not that esoteric.
No, it's not. And gosh, it's such a great point you made right there. I appreciate that. This stuff needs to go into elementary schools ASAP. We are in the position we're in right now because we don't know that. We're in a position we are in right now because we believe a programmed lie, which is, I'm not blaming anybody. We're all part of it. We're all contributing to it. We're all part of this mess, this beautiful mess we've created, right? And there's a way out, and that is through that knowing, getting kids now, because we see ourselves going in reverse because we see all this other stuff going on where everyone's pointing the finger, but we also see a bunch of people waking up at the same time. So as I say something like that, you're right. I probably maybe want to think about going, well, I know that sounds a little, and I need to start speaking like this is the way it is. This, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I appreciate that.
I'd love to add to that because, you've got to be it to become it. You've got to actually step in and be it to become it. So if you want something, I am all for claim it, baby, and say it. Because here's the thing. The guy who's an archer who pulls an arrow, he's still an archer, even though he doesn't hit the bullseye every time. He's still an archer. He practices archery. He pulls the arrow. He lets go. He goes for his target. He may not hit every single time, but nobody says he's not an archer just because he didn't hit the bullseye. And so I think that we have to claim it. We have to declare it. We have to say it, because otherwise the universe isn't going to hear us. And so when you tell somebody you want to do something and you say it and you share it and you own it, the universe lets it unfold. I recently have decided for my legacy, I want to build a school in Cambodia to help underprivileged children. I made the claim. I decided to do it. I also claimed that I wanted to work with Les Brown. Here I am doing a book with Les Brown, who's helping me build a school in Cambodia. Now, it's been a year in the process. It's maybe been 50 years in the process of my own evolution. But when you declare it, the universe is like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to help you meet that person. And then that door is going to open. And so every time you say something, it becomes a hinge to a door that opens something else that creates what I love to say, another possibility in your life. And I just want to share, I'm so blessed to be working with Les Brown and the book that we've made, because that book is now opening the doors for other people. And people have stepped in to say, I want that, or I want to try that, or I want to do that. And I think more than anything, we have to be examples for one another. We have to show people that it's possible for them. And Rex, I could only be here because I see what you're doing. And Natalie, I see what you're doing. And now I hear what Mike is doing. And that makes it possible for me. And so I think for all of us, and I call it ambition shaming, there's no such thing as ambition shaming. If you want something, go get it, go after it, believe in yourself, and the universe will believe in you.
Wow. It's powerful, don't you think, Nellie? I want to add this shamelessly, that JB and Les Brown will be on my show, All Things Rex, on the Los Angeles Tribune TV network on Wednesday, not a Thursday, November 24th, because the following day is Thanksgiving. So the day before Thanksgiving, if you want to see more of JB, you want to see more of Les Brown, that's the place to be. And with that, I'm
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're honored because it unfolds. The opportunities unfold, and when you say something, you don't even know what the universe is like. The master is up there moving the chessboard in your favor, and I always say, what you want wants you, so go after it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. And you just, JB, you just mentioned books, right? And there are lots of people writing books right now because the stories finally have a way to come out. Mike, you also have a book, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe this is old too, so I'm willing to learn. I'm joking. I know you have one right there. So your book, tell us a little bit about your book, if you don't mind, because you mentioned, a character, and we all write different types of books. So would you mind telling us a little bit about yours?
Yeah, my story is a novel, fictional. It's about a young man who had a really, really, really hard childhood, and he ends up he's quite abused by a stepfather. And one day he ends up sticking up for himself around 19 years old, and a bunch of stuff happens, and he ends up getting shot by a police officer, and he dies. And then something very miraculous happens, and after this miraculous thing happens, he was a mute before that because of all the abuse. I mean, to give you an idea, he had 111 cigarette burn marks on his chest from 5 years old on. That's how bad we're talking, right? This is the story, of course. And so when he has this thing happens, which I'm not going to say what it is, he becomes a messenger, like a Buddha figure, a Christ figure, somebody who's a messenger for the light, and he ends up changing the world he has to go to prison first, and all this stuff happens there, and it's really about the global shift on the planet, and it talks about what's happening now, because I wrote this 4 years ago, but I knew that this was coming, something similar to this, and he warns of that, and then boom, it happens, and here we are. But he shows us the way through this, and it is through it, right? And on the other side of this, even though, it is quite uncomfortable, and we see these players, and we're like, yeah, there's some dark players here, behind this, but at the end of the day, there's something quite miraculous at work, and, we only have one opportunity in this incarnation, and I say, let's play the hero's journey, which is what the book is. So I hope that was enough of it.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. I don't know, Rex, were you going to say something, or? Okay, I wasn't sure whether you were going to try to unmute yourself. So I love that, and the reason why I ask you is not just because it's a novel and because it touches on some of the maybe not so delightful items that we experience, but it's also to demonstrate that we all have a voice, right? Like Dennis says, we all have a seed of greatness in us, and we all deserve to share that in whatever way is necessary. And so, one person writes a novel and uses the term fictional novel and may have some reality in there. Another person writes more of a chapter, and I'm not saying that that's you, of course, but writes a chapter book, or maybe 15 or 20 books, all on different topics, like Dr. Joe Vitale. I think he is at 80 books now. So,
Yeah.
all different topics, because things come up, obviously, as we move forward. So when you're thinking about life right now, both of you are very accomplished. Both of you seem very certain with your mission and your purpose. And we just talked about, do you pronounce it to the world or not? And there are obviously different opinions. So, what is the next win that you are going to manifest? JB.
Well, it's a great question because my goal is really to ignite 1 billion lives with 1 billion words. And I'm really committed to sharing personal stories. And so 17 books in the last 2 years we published about people's personal stories. Because here's the thing, it doesn't matter how old you are, what country you come from, how much money you make, what color your skin is, what your gender is, what your preferences are. We all can connect to the human condition of perseverance and dedication and determination. In fact, we're infatuated with the hero's journey, that moment between do I become a victim or do I become a hero? And when you can take your story, your own personal story, and you can look at it again from 365 degrees and share it with other people, you create this commonality that everybody is like, I can see myself in them. And again, more now than ever, I think we need to create commonalities. We need to find a way that I can share my story and someone in Zimbabwe and in Africa and in India and in Peru and Berlin, they can all relate to my story because it's the human condition. It's the human experience. And so I'm super passionate about creating more and more books. We're doing another book with Ryan Serhant and David Meltzer and Brian McKinley. We're really building books that take people, no matter where you are in your success. I mean, Dennis has a great Ignite moment, and John has a great Ignite moment, and Rex, you have a great Ignite moment. And those Ignite moments that we have that transform us, and sometimes they take us to our knees and slapped us upside the head, but ultimately there was a silver lining in that Ignite moment. That is commonality. It doesn't matter how much money is in your pocketbook. It doesn't matter your accolades. You have a moment that ignited you and stepped you into a greater version of yourself, and that brings humanity together. And so my greatest goal is that we ignite humanity. We create some kind of global connection where people understand each other on a much deeper level than the color of our skin or how much money we make or how often we're on social media, that we really inspire people in a way that is sort of next level, and the chasm that is growing comes more together and elevates the consciousness of the planet.
Wow.
Kenny.
I would like to add something. Given what we've been talking about winning. I asked to redefine psychology. We talked about the need. We both do books. We all do books. We speak. When the pandemic hit, I was like, yes. Now, not because of suffering or because of death toll or anything like that, but because I realized that the universe was giving us an opportunity, just like all the hardship of your bike ride. It was time for us to pivot. And you know what? We had the technology that we have right now to be meeting, which which didn't exist a couple of years back. And social media was in place. I mean, we had cell phones. I mean, from the 80s or 90s on. But in essence, we are evolving ourselves and evolving our technology. We're now in a day and age where people around the world could be watching you and us, all of us, talk together and share these ideas. And then we said to Mike, a little bit the esoteric stuff, and he said it should be in schools. It should be for children. So we are at that point right now where the technology exists, the publishing world exists, the schools that people are creating around the world exist to literally start teaching these things to young children.
Right.
But in order to teach the children, we got to capture the parents.
That's right.
Because the primary caregivers are we'll fight the U.S. war. You can't teach that in our schools. So, but we're really in an exciting time, don't you think? I mean, don't you think we're just right there? I always say it like this: we're at 211 degrees. Water boils at 212 and transforms into steam. We're at that precipice of incredible change. And
imagine thought leaders teaching school. Like, I am so passionate if we can have the thought leaders, the people who are inspiring and moving the needle on the consciousness of your mind instead of paper books and school and numbers and memory. Like if we can really elevate education through thought leaders, we're creating a legacy library that we would like to share with schools around the globe. Like that's the kind of education that I get really passionate about. And what you said is so apropos, because we need to be educating the new minds of what's possible for them.
Awesome. I couldn't agree more, because education is one of my peeve projects. But I do want Mike to address this as well, especially the last part, probably about what Rex just said. Because I don't know, I saw a little smile on your face. What are your thoughts about where we are now, and what to you? It started out by what to you is the next big win, and then we went a little bit into this is a great moment. We all get to do this. The sort of awaken now or else. What are your thoughts on that, Mike?
Well, yeah, when he was saying that about, he was excited about it and it was a big opportunity. It's so true. And I'll say at the same time, for me, it is a big, it can become a big fall for me at points. Like when I see what's happening in the world and the players that are behind it and the push and what they're doing with the kids and everything, it can like really stop me. But the time that the only thing that brings me out of it is when I step into the reality that Rex was talking about. Because it's I only have two choices. Am I going to stay in the caca, or am I going to come out on the other side and find practice what I preach and talk about changing my perception of, hey, this is a big opportunity. We got this chance. Let's do it. So big win for me. The next question. Well, I'm writing it's a trilogy. Writing the second book now. It's going to be great when I finish the trilogy. But to be honest, for me, the biggest thing is like I'm shooting for the absolute global awakening, the absolute shift around in my lifetime. I mean, and that's all I care about. If anybody you ask that knows me, I'm laser focused. There's nothing else that's interesting to me in this world but making that happen. So that's the big one for me. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Awesome, and right on cue. Look at
I'm so glad.
Global awakening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Natalie Forst. And I love this duo of Mike and JB. I mean, they really complement each other so perfectly. And I wanted to thank both of them for contributing to this panel. And we're going to just give you guys the floor to spend about 1 to 2 minutes to share your closing thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience. Going to start with you, Mike. Going to give you the floor to just share your final message you want to share with our audience here on the tour. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. I would say that everything that we want, or you want, who's listening, you already are. You already have it. You are it. You've never been anything else but it. And that is the capital love that all of us are. You know what I mean? Like literally you are it. And you've never been anything else. You already are the abundance. If you have a roof over your head right now and you're eating rice and beans, you have abundance. And if you can recognize that, everything else will be given to you. You already have it. And in this situation, the same thing like we were talking about, my invitation to people is to really go deep inside and find that place where you can realize that this is somehow, some way, as hard as it seems, for the better. And that's it. And thank you for having me on this thing. I really appreciate being with all these great people. I didn't say it before, but thank you.
You're welcome, Mike, and thank you for being with us. JB Owen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, I want to say that actions speak louder than words. So take action from something you've learned here today or throughout these 4 days. Take action upon it. Just one thing can be that igniting spark that takes you the next step forward. And I just believe that learners are leaders. And so if you'd like to learn a little bit more about how you can tell your story and how you can step into transforming your life, you can go to possibility.tips, and I've got great free gifts for you there. And I really need to share that Les Brown has been so generous to do some other other fun stuff. And he is doing that with mentorwithless.com, some free gifts of mentoring with Les. And the book is available to people. And we even have free gift cards for all the people who are here. If you want to email me at giftcards@igniteyou.life, I will send you a free gift card to get a copy of the book that Les and I are doing. All the proceeds are going to build a school. It's called the Ignite Possibilities School of Hope. You can find out more at ignitethehungerinyou.com. And I just believe that when you take a step and you move forward and you'll be like, yeah, I could have sat on the couch and been like, it's a pandemic, I'm not allowed to go anywhere. But getting on my bike and taking one step after the other and pedaling towards a goal has transformed my life incredibly. I feel like I have a superhero cape around my neck. And so just taking action gets you where you want to go. So please reach out to me. I'm super available. I'm always accessible. You can find me at The Pink Billionaire on Facebook and Instagram. And I'd love to help you ignite your life and step into what's possible for you.
You know, I want to thank the two of you. Thank you, JB. Thank you, Mike. Keep on being examples of the kinds of leaders that this world so desperately needs in today's climate. So I wanted to thank you guys again. And I'm excited because we are getting ready to go to our next segment now. And Adora, how exciting was that last panel of Mike and JB? Just want to hear some feedback from you because I personally loved it. And like I said, I thought that those two complemented each other so fantastically. Mike, a very stoic kind of personality, JB, and I just thought that was like ketchup and mustard. What do you think, Adora?
I loved it. And I love when she said, you know, hey, he said we were going to compliment each other, but something like we're aligned. We're totally aligned. It was like good values. There was so much, you know, I got to kick back on my couch and watch on Facebook and give some comments. That was really so much fun. But I'm now thinking of getting on a bike thanks to JB. Not that kind of trail, not that long, but for a little bit. It was
Absolutely.
amazing.